Hey everybody, I think we're live. I'm not sure. Um, this is Patty G. You're listening to the Patty G Show or watching the Patty G Show. I'm not sure if this is even working, but we've got Jordan Heffler from Do What You Want Radio, Do What You Want podcast, and photography.
Yeah, that works.
Is your big? I think is your big thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So we were just chatting about trying to figure all this stuff out and how kind of Corona is forcing all of us to figure all this stuff out in regards to producing content and getting content out there, which, okay, I now see it on my Facebook page. So it is actually live.
It's actually happening.
And it's actually working. So,
yeah.
So Jordan, what is your description of who you are?
Well, I've never quite gotten an elevator pitch down because my problem is I do too many things. And so it's hard for me to pitch myself in a concise way. But pretty much how I normally introduce myself is my name is Jordan Heffler. I'm a photographer and creative entrepreneur. I'm based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I celebrate a chromatic inspired lifestyle. So that's just a bunch of fancy words for I do photography and I like color.
Okay, yeah, I know. I've been seeing you all over Instagram, all over Facebook. Not so much Facebook, but mostly Instagram and TikTok with your color and your certain filter that you have.
Yeah, I have made some presets now based on that, but I like the same kind of colors over and over again. And one day someone told me that's branding, and I was like, oh, I guess that's a thing I do. So.
Having everything symmetrical over the course of your pages and all of your posts and everything is symmetrical, I guess. So branding. Okay, but so we were chatting before. So how did you get into photography? What made you want to get started with that?
Yeah, my dad has always been into photography. He kind of did it as a side hustle passion project growing up. He did a lot of like motorsport photography and motorcycle photography and cars. And when we were growing up, he had a side business photographing races. And so I kind of just was always around as a kid watching him do that. And so I grew up with cameras in the house. And I actually was really into, camcorders. And I was like in third grade, I had a camcorder and I would do these silly skits with my stuffed animals and like make stop motion films and stuff. So I've just always been interested in cameras and being creative with them. And so I decided to major in photography at LSU, which I didn't know was a major, like an option until my senior year of high school. And I knew I wanted to do something in art, but didn't know what. And so I majored in that, graduated in 2014 with a degree in photography. And from there, just kind of grew to having my own business. But it all started with growing up around my dad doing it.
Okay. So your dad kind of was a big influence on making that decision to go into photography.
Yeah.
So how did you get connected with sports photography? Because I see that's what you do. I guess I don't know if it's primarily, or is that your primary focus is sports, or is there another
Not
focus?
even at all, but that makes me excited that you say that. So I just strive to look cool on the internet. And
I think we all
just made me realize it might be working. No, I actually, so it's funny because in college, I remember my freshman year, I went to like a photography club meeting. They had like a club called Snap, and it was the photography club. And I went to the meeting and they were like, okay, everyone say your name and what you like to shoot. And I remember specifically being like, my name's Jordan. I don't like to shoot people. I like to shoot everything but people. And it was like, I photographed landscapes or whatever. But when you're first starting out in photography, you should take pictures of everything you can. Like anything that's in front of you, you just like fixate on it. And so as I got more comfortable with people and posing them and stuff, I kind of graduated into more portraiture. And so I did a lot of senior pictures for a long time. I still do them, but that was my main thing. And I really kind of hated it. I didn't want to be known as the girl who just took the LSU senior portraits. So I got into editorial photography with 225 magazine and some other local publications. And that's kind of a long story short, how I got into the sports photography, which to this day, I've still not really photographed that many sports. I just milk a lot of the content online. But I've only really shot like 10 football games over the course of the past like 4 years. And that's like, I haven't shot any other sports really. So, but you're not the first person to ask me that. I guess people assume that that's like my main thing. And I guess that means whatever I'm posting is working, but I would love to shoot more sports. I just don't have the access because you have to have credentials and be cleared and be with a publication. And so just haven't really had the opportunity yet.
Okay, so let's dive in more to that. What exactly do you need? Like, let's say I want to be a sports photographer. What do I need to do? Who do I need to chat with if that's someone you can
Mm-hmm.
talk about? And just kind of let's go through that process.
Yeah, so I think it helps that I had a portfolio. Like I was a professional photographer already. I didn't shoot my first LSU game until I think fall of 2016. Um, and so, but I had already been doing photography professionally up until then, had lots of concert photography, had lots of portraits. Like I definitely had been running a business. And so I had a portfolio. And so I think they just gave me a shot to say, like, we know you can take pictures. Like, let's see if you can take pictures at this instead. Because for 225, I mean, they might be like, oh, go photograph this bowl of gumbo because it won an award. Or it could be like, oh, go photograph this person because they did this. Or, oh, go photograph this event because it's the. So with editorial, you're really kind of getting experience in a lot of different random areas because they're just always, writing stories about different things. So with the LSU stuff, my dad actually had photographed some LSU games because his friend gets a credential and brings him with him to photograph for an alumni association. So my dad had already been on the field many times, and I always thought that was so cool. I never thought I could do it, but I was like, one day that'd be awesome. And now I've like passed him up, and I got to shoot the national championship and stuff. So it's really cool. But you really kind of just have to I think have a portfolio, but B, it's the same thing with music photography. I get asked all the time. You have to have a publication. You can't just like stroll up to LSU and be like, I want to photograph the game. They're gonna be like, yeah, of course, duh, everyone wants to. Like, here's the line. And so being with a publication is you're in because it doesn't really matter who you are, it matters who you're with. So I mean, you could be a crappy photographer but be with Rolling Stone and then you're going to get in, you know what I mean? Not that there are people that bad shooting for those kinds of publications, but it really isn't about you as a photographer or your work, it's about who you're working for. So I think the goal is to get your foot in the door with a publication who covers that sort of thing, whether it be concerts or football games or whatever. And 225 happens to be a publication that covers everything in Baton Rouge. So I've kind of gotten a lot of really cool opportunities through that, but it's limited to Baton Rouge. So it's not like I can go shoot a Saints game. Do you know what I mean?
Right. But so what is the next step within that though to kind of branch out? Like, do you want to go shoot the Saints game or are you trying to shift your photography into something else?
I think that'd be awesome. I will say I'm really lucky having only shot sports games for a magazine. There are very different styles of photography that you can do. And like, there's like photojournalism, like the Advocate, like the newspaper. Then there's like the creative team. So like the LSU creative team, the people who are photographing for LSU as a brand, they're using those photos for marketing, for Twitter, whatever. And then there's like local editorial, magazines and stuff. I've been very lucky to do it for 225, which is a magazine, because they don't typically need my photos until like a year later. I usually am shooting the season. Like the national championship was a rare thing, but I'm typically shooting games for them to use to hype up next year's season. So they won't even use those photos till like the next August. So I have time. It's not like I have to like go back to the room after the game, turn them around, have them be printed in the newspaper the next day. That kind of changes the approach too, because when I'm shooting, it kind of has to be a little bit more artistic. Sometimes they have to like have a giant photo with like room for text on it. It can be a little more ambiguous with the moment. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that was that one play that made the game, because nobody cares a year from now. It's kind of just like a nice photo of a player. So and that works for me because I don't know sports that well. Like I'm not like an idiot. I know football and I love the game, but I don't know every player's stats and whatever. And if you're shooting for the newspaper, you got to know who made that play, when it happened, what their number is, what their, everything, because you're reporting on the news. For me, it's more so just like aesthetically beautiful photos that they can use almost without sounding like bad, like generic photo. They want like stock photos to be able to use all the time, like LSU, like, so just, wide shots of the stadium or like Mike or whatever. So I've been really lucky doing that. So I'm rambling, but I would love to shoot more sports, but I think I would only want to shoot more sports in the same way I've been doing it, because I am not like a sports fanatic. Like I don't know everyone's stats. I don't know the ins and outs of being able to shoot for a team on like a full-time basis. I like kind of just having an artistic eye and bringing it to sports and seeing what happens. And so I've gotten lucky to do that, but I wouldn't want to do too much more sports if it was other than that, I don't think.
Right. Well, because like you said, it's, you're pulling for stock photos or photos to be used throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, somebody, if like a videographer is there, they've got a video that catch or that pass that people are going to remember, and they want that season. I mean, they want to take that video and chop it up and then use it for a hype video later on
Right.
that week. So I can imagine the turnaround time for that is just crazy.
Oh, the LSU team. So I got to sit with them during the national championship because there was like a big media room and I was just by myself and all these other people are like teams. It's like freaking ESPN's here with their whole squad and like, CBS Sports is here. And so I was just like, it's just me and it's just my laptop and me. And so they actually did need those photos like that night because if we had won, they knew that they wanted to use photos and whatever. But typically I don't have to edit on site like that. There is a media room, but the LSU's creative team let me sit with them because I'm friends with some of the people, the photographers on the team. And just watching them and just being like on the outside of their conversations, like it is a full-blown system. Like they've got people who run the cards back and forth and someone else is editing your photo for you. That way it can go out on Twitter like 5 minutes after it happened. And like they're doing stuff like on the go right then. And it's just such a different way because right now it's just me and I shoot all my photos and then I come back and I look at them and I go through manually and choose them and manually edit them. And they have like a whole system where it's like before you even know how good the photo was because you're still in the field, someone else has already wired the image back and it's already been like tweeted. It's crazy.
Oh, geez.
It's crazy. So, and that's how, when I shoot concerts, I don't really shoot for publications that are like that, intense. But when I shoot for Voodoo Fest, like that's like a situation where I'm working for the festival and the same kind of thing happens where they want to be able to post on social media about the set before the set's over. So you shoot like the first song, get something good, run back to the trailer, edit something real quick, like wire it to the social person. And then they want to be able to post like, wow, that set by Post Malone was so good. Like up next is but like they want to be in real time. So you have to be like in real time running back and forth. So I've had that kind of experience before. It's very stressful. It's very fun. It really puts your skills to the test because you're like trying to do stuff fast and you're trying to find photos. Like it makes you fast as an editor to pick like I took 4,000, but what's the best one right now,
Right.
So sports is another level of that though, because you really have to know everything about the game and what's happening. And I'm not there yet.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not a sports person by no stretch of the imagination. I enjoy watching football. I enjoy watching baseball, but don't quiz me on trivia or anything of that nature.
I mean, it's even like I'm on the field taking pictures and I'll like take a picture of my screen and text my boyfriend, be like, is this an important player? Like, was this someone
who is this?
Yeah. Like, I'm just like, because I'll get these really cool photos of random people and my boyfriend Christian will be like, that guy didn't even like play the game. I'm like, but it's a beautiful portrait. And he's like, don't post that one. That's not like an important guy. I'm like, no, it's awesome. But you never know because maybe next year that might be
Right.
And so because I'm shooting in with that state of mind, it's like a free for all. I just shoot whatever I can. Also, so much of photography, I don't like saying this because you have to have skill, but a lot of it is luck. It really is like where the action happens, especially with sports. Like you have a whole football field to deal with. You can only be in certain areas. And even if you know the game really well, unless you have the right equipment and a little bit of luck for something to happen where you need it to happen, you don't get the shot. And so much of what I get is just like a fluke thing. And I'll be like, is this good? And sometimes my boyfriend will be like, holy cow, that's like so-and-so. That's amazing. And I'm like, I don't know. It just happened next to me,
shot?
Yeah. Or he'll be like, oh, you missed that one shot. I'm like, well, the ref was standing in front of me the whole time. It's like, it is luck. A lot of it, I think. And so I hate saying that because as a creative entrepreneur, you want to know that like your skills have been like put to use, but a lot of it is luck. When it's like music or sports or anything like action related, you can get really good, but you still have to have like the luck of the moment.
Right. And it's, I've listened to some of your podcasts and some of your episodes and you're talking about being in the pit, I guess, for like concerts. And, if you've got 3 people that are taking up a particular angle that you can't get, well, you missed a shot.
Yeah. But you're all fighting for the same photos.
Right. And that's so what is that like? Like, what is one of the best concerts you've shot and what was that experience like going through?
That's a really good question. I do get asked that a lot. Like, what's your favorite show you shot? And I really don't ever know how to answer that. I kind of like black out when it's happening. Not from like alcohol. I mean, like blackout. Like
right. You're so in. You're so focused. Right.
Yeah. I don't show up like wasted. No. I don't remember sometimes like what was going on because you're just like in your camera. You're looking through something so small, and so when you're shooting in the pit, it's an even playing field. So it doesn't matter if the guy next to you works for Rolling Stone or the person next to you, it's their first concert. Like you all have the same. It's like, I don't watch the Hunger Games, but I feel like it's the Hunger Games. Like you're all the same vantage point. It doesn't matter who you are. The best you can do is the best you can do. And there's an etiquette to it. It's kind of like unspoken, like you wear black, like you don't show up in the photo pit wearing polka dots. Because if you end up in some other photographer's shot, like, and then they have to edit you out, it's kind of unspoken that everyone wears black or dark colors. You don't go stand in front of people. If you've been in one spot for a long time, you kind of like feel it out and then move so someone else has a chance. And you don't like put your camera in the air and like take pictures above your head because you'll be in everyone else's photos. And so there's like some of those unspoken type rules, but I don't know. I feel like my favorite photo I've taken that I always talk about, and I feel like people are probably tired of it by now. It's a picture of the guitarist of Fall Out Boy. Because there was like this fake snow that was falling from the sky, and I took it from behind, and it was really cool. And I have it printed in my wall, and it was a photo that Instagram's music page like reposted it, and it was a huge deal at the time because it was in 2016, and I was still fairly new to doing it. And that was a really cool concert to shoot, and that was a scary concert to shoot because my memory card just kept saying it was corrupted in the middle, and you only get 3 songs to shoot. Like, so you are escorted in, you have 3 songs, and then you're done. So you bring what you can, but you don't have time to be messing around with anything. You kind of have to be like ready. That's why I usually wear 2 cameras, because it's just easier to not have to take time up to go change your lens and whatever. And my memory card kept saying it was like malfunctioning. So I didn't even know if I got the photos. And I ended up getting like my favorite photo. So that was one of my favorite ones, I think, because of that story of just being like really stressed out and not knowing if I even had anything to show for it. And then I did. Some of my best photos, I think. But a lot of times it's like smaller concerts too, like concerts without photo pits. Like Spanish Moon's closed right now, but like places like Spanish Moon and the Varsity, even, like they don't have photo pits. And so you're kind of just in the crowd with your camera and, you know, making all the fans mad trying to get to the front. And you're kind of like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to take pictures. Like, let me up here, please. And that gives me so much anxiety because I hate, you know, pushing my way through or inconveniencing someone, especially if it's like a diehard fan in the front row and I'm just trying to take pictures. I don't even know the band sometimes, you know, and then I feel bad taking up space. But some of those concerts are the most fun because it's like such a game. Like you truly are like hunting. Like you have no control over your surroundings or what's happening or what they're going to do on stage, what the lighting's going to be like, if the guy next to you is going to be drunk and like throws beer on you, or if there's going to be a crowd surfer, or if you're going to get punched in the face. Like you just never know. So
you're going to a brawl essentially.
Well, I shoot a lot of heavy concerts too because they make for good photos. Like nobody likes photographing pianists, you know what I mean? Like you want to photograph like something going on. So I like to shoot the heavier shows because it's unpredictable and it's fun, but it's also kind of terrifying because like I have thousands of dollars of equipment and I'm just like, please don't punch me. I'm not ready for that.
Right. I'm not ready to have somebody like flail their body on top of me and then crack my screen. I mean, because from what I heard, don't you rent some of that equipment? That's
for
like the more
games,
expensive stuff.
Yeah, for the football games, I rent a 120 to 300 millimeter lens. It's like this long, I guess. And it costs like $200 to rent for like 3 days. It essentially eats out of my pay to shoot the games. I don't make much money shooting the games because it's important to me to have, like, I would rather get the gear and have good photos to show for it than like get paid and use what I own and not really be able to. But I don't have the need to buy one of those long lenses quite yet. They're like thousands and thousands of dollars, which is normal for camera gear, but they're not really something that I would use for anything other than football games. And since I don't shoot that many, I just rent them. But yeah, you're right. Like renting gear and then being in situations where like it might get messed up. It's worse when it's your own though, because you're like, I have to pay to, fix this. But.
Such is the risk of the field, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happened at Voodoo Fest this last year. My camera gear got rained on, and my screen was shorting out, and it cost like $300 to fix, which is only like a little bit. But when you do a gig and you get paid, and then you have to take money out of what you're getting paid to fix the thing for doing the gig, it's just never ending.
It's never ending circle. Okay, so what is what is your bag pack contain for a typical, let's go with like a concert? Like what do you bring with you to do it? Yeah,
I try to do a little less for concerts because I usually have to like there's nowhere to like set your gear down. You can't like put it anywhere while you're at the concert, especially if I'm staying after the first 3 and I'm staying to enjoy the concert. It needs to be on me and I need to not have like giant amounts of stuff. And so I usually have a smaller camera backpack. I have 2 cameras with me. Almost always, unless it's something local, like at the varsity. If I'm going to New Orleans or something, I'm going to have both cameras in case something happens. I usually try to have, well, it depends on the concert too and the venue. If it's an arena, you need a long lens because the artists are further away, the stage is higher up. So that would be like a 70 to 200 lens. Same for festivals. If it's something like the House of Blues, you are like this close from like their toes on the end of the stage. So you need something really wide because you're like up in their face. So you don't need a long lens. So I would have a wide lens, probably like a 24-70 or something even wider. The problem is though, depending on the venues, you start to know which venues have good lighting. And so I can preempt my lens that I'm going to bring based on that, because I have to bring a prime lens if it's like a hole in the wall place with like one drop light in the corner. So that, affects the type of lengths I want to have. I don't always have in the prime version. So then I have to bring a prime lens because it's like better for lighting. So sometimes you end up bringing like 5 lenses and you end up only needing one, but you don't know till you get there what you're going to need. So I always am trying to remember which venues had what kind of lighting, but also a lot of times is the band's preference. Like some bands want to play in the dark, some bands want spotlight on them. So you're kind of just at the mercy of whatever is happening, but you can't use a flash like 99% of the time. So,
okay.
I bring a little bit of everything because you got to be ready.
Yeah. Okay. So on the back end, what is the post edit procedure like for, let's say you shoot the concert, you shoot the first 3 songs. That's like what, 30 minutes worth of shooting. What is, or is it longer than that?
No, like 10 minutes.
Oh, 10
like 15
minutes.
minutes maybe.
Okay.
Depends on the band, but yeah, it's like 15 minutes.
Okay. And then you said you got 4,000 photos out of those 10 minutes?
No, that's a lot, but I probably average around 500 photos per song. So about 1,500, maybe 2,000.
Okay. And so how long does it take to edit them on the back end?
So especially with concert stuff, you will probably only have like 1% usable photos. Doesn't matter how good you are. It's just a matter because like the lights are blinking and like things are blurry and you're shooting a lot just because you only have that amount of time and you can't control what's happening. So you're just overshooting. And then you go back and you look, and I'm like, if it's like first 3 songs, I probably end up with like 20 decent photos, like 5 that are actually like going to be used for whatever it is it's for. But it also depends. Like some bands have great lighting and they're active on stage. So I end up with like 100 amazing photos from 3 songs. And some bands you'd be lucky to get 1. Like it really is just a toss up. But so it doesn't take me that long to go through them. Sometimes it takes longer just to copy the freaking card. Like when I shoot South by Southwest and it's like an all day shoot, like it's like 10 hours or something. And I just have like so many cards. It takes like 2 hours just to move the photos to the computer. And by then I'm like so annoyed because I'm like, I'm awake still. I can edit it, but I can't do it till it's on the computer. So now I have to like wait for that part. Once it's on the computer, it's just rapid fire. Like I kind of have gotten good at knowing what I'm looking for. And then editing them doesn't take super long unless there's something crazy that I have to like Photoshop out, or the lighting was really, really bad and I have to get creative with how to edit it. But it probably takes like another hour.
Okay. That's not, geez, that's been more time on the post edit of like podcasting.
Podcasting is no joke though. Same. And for me, it's like not even editing my podcast takes long. It's like coming up with a blog post to write all the stuff for the SEO and then designing a little thing and then like scheduling it to go out. And the episode might be an hour, but then it takes me like another hour to hour and a half to like get it going.
Yeah.
So I understand that.
So, and moving into that, you have your own podcast, the Do What You Want radio podcast. So why?
Why? Because I just can't stop talking. I just kept having conversations with people that I thought was interesting. And every single time I'd be like, man, I wish I would have recorded that. So maybe I should start a podcast. And so I actually had my microphone for like a year before I did anything. So I've been thinking about it. I had wanted to do it for a while. And then I didn't actually get it together to launch until January of 2019. But I had like bought the mic and everything. I had stuff for like a year. I just didn't know the tech part of it really held me back because I was afraid it was going to be too difficult. So I just kept putting off looking into it. And then once I did it, I was like, oh, this isn't hard. It's just tedious. Like it's very simple to do. It's just talking with a microphone, push record. Yeah. It's very simple. It's just tedious. So, and I'm doing it all myself. So I launched it in January of last year, and I did about an episode a week every week until around Thanksgiving or so. And so I have 50 episodes. And then I'm on a hiatus right now. I'm going to do season 2 at some point. I just don't know when. Kind of just enjoying the break from it. It's a lot of work.
Right. Yeah. And I'm right there with you. It was kind of okay, spend like 3 months of research, figure out what is actually good gear and what people are already using, what they recommend. And then let's spend another 2 months learning how to use it, because I'm in accounting. I'm nothing to do with sound or audio or anything of that nature. So I can understand for you going through that struggle of learning as we go.
Yeah. Well, that's like how I've done everything though. And I'm very much a believer in just like getting something out there, even if it's like bad, just getting it out there, like to a point where you're still okay putting your name on it, but like not, because if you're a perfectionist, like you're going to sit around and wait to do it forever. And that's how I was like with my online workshops and my podcast. I waited a year to do anything about them until I finally was just like, screw it. Like, I'm just going to set my camera up or set my mic up and just like start and see what happens. And people who really care about you and your content they will grow with you, and like they will be okay with however bad it might be, you know?
Yeah, well, everybody's got to start from somewhere. We don't all start out right out the gate and just absolutely perfect, nail everything, unless we're using a post-production crew. I mean, for those of us that are doing everything and kind of bootstrapping it as we go.
But I can't afford that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm using everything that's as inexpensive or as free as I could possibly use, like as far as, podcasting software goes. The podcasting hardware was the biggest investment, but I knew that it was going to be worth it in the long run to invest in quality gear. But like we were talking beforehand, paying those monthly dues each month, they start to add up and they never go away.
Oh, 100%. And this whole coronavirus hoopla is really forcing me to look at my stuff. Like, I've been needing to, like, and I don't mean just like podcast, just look at my expenses. And you're an accounting guy, so I'm sure that's like your wheelhouse. But I, as a creative, I don't think I'm bad with money, but I'm definitely not good with it. Do you know what I mean? And so I do a lot of avoiding. Like, I just go on about my business, and there are months that I'm like doing what, in my opinion, like really, really great. And there's months that I like have made less than $100, and I just don't know what the next step is. And with the coronavirus stuff, like, I'm used to having months where nothing happens. Like, that happens every year for me, but I know when it's coming, because this just kind of happened in my busiest time, which is typically the spring. It's kind of scary. And so starting to look at the subscriptions and things, and like, okay, what am I actually using? What am I actually not? Like, what's a better way to do this? Like, I don't know. Because a lot of times you just like set up auto renew, and then you just forget. And so even just the other day,
that's how they
I was looking at my my expenses like 2 days ago, and I was like, wait, I paid for this hotel room like twice in January. Like, what? Like, just little things that I'm like, why did it, like, but it's because I just go on about my day, and then I'm like, man, I'm always broke. And so now I'm just trying to like get it together and reading my little Dave Ramsey book now.
Yeah, let's figure out why we're broke, and let's see what we can do to change it. I know, like, I'm not saying that, I guess I take it a little bit extreme. Like, I do monthly financials for personal, like for my wife and I, so we can track and see what we've been spending. And then we get notifications every time the cards run. So we're constantly checking and monitoring everything. And then we're projecting and doing, planning, of course, throughout the month. But prior to that,
that's how you're supposed to be doing it. But
I'm not saying you're supposed to, but
I feel like you probably
it makes
are.
Perfect sense. Yeah.
But it's just, I'm 27, and now I'm just now realizing, like, oh, all this money I've been making that I've been so proud. Because when you own your own business, it's like every dollar, like, you really sincerely, I'm so excited. Like, every time I get hired and I get paid, like, it's like a pride thing. And the fact that I'm not on the street, and I'm able to, even if I'm in debt, like sometimes, like, I'm able to live life based on doing what I love to do. I'm very grateful for that. But then I look at my expenses, and I'm like, I make more money than I think I do. And it's just because I don't properly know where it's going. Things could be a lot different. And so that's something I'm really it took a global pandemic for me to figure it out. But I'm actually kind of grateful that we're all home now. One, not spending money, which is, I know it's a loaded thing because it ends up affecting the whole economy. And that's why I'm not making money, because no one's spending money. But overall, like, we're not going out as much. So it'll be a nice little kind of break from my credit cards and stuff for me to kind of just look into, see what's going on. But I've been tracking my monthly revenue for years as a business owner, because I have to pay my sales tax and stuff. But it never occurred to me until this year to track my monthly expenses. I've always tracked like how much I'm getting paid, and I'm like, cool. But I've never once like tracked where I spent it. I don't know what the problem is. So now I'm like, oh, that's very step one, but a little late to the game, but we're going to get it figured out.
Hey, it's like we said, we roll with the punches and we learn and adapt as we go. Step one, open Excel. Step two, header, and then roll with it from there. So, okay. So the podcast, what's the podcast about? I mean, outside of Do What You Want.
Yeah. So, it's called Do What You Want Radio, because Do What You Want is like my subtitle. Or not subtitle. It's like a tagline, if you will. For Jordan Heffa Photography is my business, but Do What You Want is kind of like my mantra that kind of goes underneath that. And it was always just supposed to be a reminder for me, because there's so much of the stuff that I do that I don't want to do. And so it's not saying that I do whatever I want. It's like supposed to be a reminder that you can do what you want as a creative entrepreneur. In my experience, it was more so like, I'm a photographer, I have to shoot weddings. Well, I hated shooting weddings. I did it for a little bit and I was like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. But everyone says you have to do it. So that's kind of where Do What You Want came from. Like, you don't necessarily have to do what everyone else is doing. And if you aren't, that usually means you're onto something, because you're out of the box. You're like, being a little bit different. So that's like the mantra that kind of came out of that. And so with that was the podcast idea for Do What You Want Radio. And it was just kind of a way for me to talk to people like me who also own their own businesses, maybe doing things I don't know anything about, or B, people who don't necessarily own their own business, but they still have really cool jobs, or they've, shown some sort of an ambitiousness or ambition, I guess, in their job. And so Do What You Want Radio is just a podcast for creatives. It doesn't matter if you own your own business or not, just for creative people, and or even people who aren't creative but want to be more creative, or just want to think a little bit more openly about their careers and how to do what they want with it. So that's kind of the premise of it. I don't know if every episode lived up to that, but a lot of times I just end up talking, and it is what it is. But I interviewed a lot of different people in different professions on the podcast. So, and I'm going to have you on eventually, I promise.
Yes, we're going to make it happen once we all get corona free, right?
Oh, yes.
I know this is like, because I was wondering, what for creatives that are doing it on like a job to job base, how do they, or what can they do during these times where nobody's hiring?
Step one was probably to have some sort of like cushion fund, which I did not have, because my finances have never been under control. But now, going through this, it's forcing me to look at my stuff and know that I can have I need to start building some sort of emergency fund. It seems very straightforward, but like, I know I'm not the only person that doesn't have anything saved. And I think a lot of creatives are in that problem, because a lot of us live check to check, like job to job. And so, like I said, I might have one really big job, but then I'll have 2 months where no one hires me. And then like I have more big jobs. So it all evens out. And so I think a lot of creators, myself included, are scared because we all have slow seasons, but when your season is slow, the rest of the world is still turning. But right now, everyone's slow because the world is not turning, like the economy. I mean, so everyone's kind of freaking out. The world
itself has just stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
Even outside of the economy.
Yeah, so it's like, it's kind of scary, because like you always think like, maybe I should do this or this or this. But right now it's hard because people aren't going to be able to spend as much money because everyone stopped. So I think what people or creatives can do right now, or just self-employed people, is just create content. And like I say that, and it's very trendy buzz thing to say, but I really mean like content market yourself. Like it's not really a kosher time to be marketing yourself like, hire me for this, because like people are like, we're broke and we can't see each other. No, it's not the time to be like hitting it hard with like advertising, like what you offer. I think you can still do that to a certain extent, but I think right now is the time to just create content that will help plant the seed in people's brains that like they'll hire you later, or create like something educational to like serve your audience, because that will stick with them and make them want to buy something from you or hire you when they can. But just hitting the ground running right now, being like, oh, I'm discounting this and I'm doing that. I think you still do that to a certain extent. Like I discounted my merch for like 20%, but that's like nothing because it's like t-shirts and stuff. But people who are like going crazy trying to market their services, it's kind of out of touch a little bit, in my opinion, because like no one should be paying for that right now. Like everyone's businesses are like closing, and restaurants are going out of business, people are dying. Like it's kind of a weird time. So I think the best thing you can do is just create content that will drive people to your website or to your services, or get them to like trust you, not in a scammy way, but just like create content that's educational. So I mean, whether it's a podcast or write some blog posts or like me, I've just been all over TikTok, just being crazy because it's something new and fun to do. But just even like, oh, this is how I do this. That's how I make it. Like record it, done, 10 seconds, done. Just something, to kind of give back and teach people about, what you do, but also in turn, you're building yourself credibility with whatever that thing is and positioning yourself as an expert for them to be able to hire you for that thing whenever they finally can.
Right. Yeah. It's you're becoming, face first, you're becoming front of mind to them. It's like, oh, I've seen her do great stuff all the time, especially during the coronavirus. I mean, she was jamming on TikTok. So clearly she knows how to create stuff and she can learn dance moves. Right.
Yeah. TikTok is it's so fun. And I keep telling my boyfriend, he is not here for it. He's on like Zoom meetings, like 100 hours a day because he works for Community Coffee and they have all these meetings all the time. So he's actually in my living room right now on a call, I'm sure. And I'm like trying to I'm like, look, he's like, you don't do anything all day. I'm like, TikTok, I'm creating content. I'm planting seeds. I'm investing my time wisely. No, but it's a weird place. We're definitely on the older end of the people on there, but it's definitely, I think, going to boom. It's already boomed, but like it's going to boom. And I think our age group's just like last to like finally hop over.
And I want to nicely like almost disagree with you on that one.
Really?
We're not. Yes. Okay, so I get it. And Brian Haldane and I had this conversation when he was on the show as well. And the large portion is a younger crowd, but we're starting to see a lot more older creatives come in and start posting their content that are in their late 20s, early 30s. So it's not, the platform is not just for like high schoolers.
Oh, yeah. And I didn't really mean it like that.
Name.
I see. Okay. Yeah, then I don't disagree with you at all either. No, I don't think I think maybe for a while that's who was on there, and now it's, I mean, there's old people on there dancing and whatever, and you don't have to necessarily dance, but I do think it's fun to like just hop on whatever trend it is but make it your own. So for me, if that means like doing the cringy dances or whatever, but like putting some like information about like what my favorite editing apps are in that video while I'm dancing, just finding different ways, because I was listening to this marketing guy talk on this YouTube video a while back. He was talking to like an influencer, like this blogger who was like an Instagram fashion blogger. And she had kind of stopped seeing growth for a while because Instagram's so saturated right now. Everyone's on there, but everyone's an influencer. And it's kind of just been harder to grow and to be seen on there because there's so much noise. And she was saying she just started posting her outfits in video form on TikTok. And she got like hundreds of thousands of people to come follow her on TikTok. And they all they converted into Instagram followers. And it was like a whole new wave of people because it's just a different platform. So I'm not saying like get on TikTok, be TikTok famous and have all these like 13-year-olds like your page. Like you never know who's watching it. And I think I just talked about this on the Jada Cody show. I read some statistic that it's like millions of people have downloaded the app during this quarantine stuff because everyone's just bored. But only 4% of people on the app are like making content. So everyone's just watching, but only 4% of the people are making anything. So that just means that this is the time, if you're a content creator or if you're anyone and you want to do digital marketing, get on there now because like there's so many eyeballs looking at your stuff. Like the potential is insane. And it's like, why not? If you're already on all these other social media platforms, why not just join it? And I don't know. I mean, you have to talk the lingo though. You can't get on TikTok and do what you've been doing on Instagram, Facebook. It's not the same place. You have to like sit down and accept the cringe and just learn what they're doing and what works, and then just position what you do everywhere else on there like that. So if that means doing the dance or like using the weird little sound or whatever, it's just you have to like learn how to speak that language. But I've gotten like 100 followers since like last week, and all I've been doing is posting like something stupid every day. So it's just crazy. The scalability is insane.
Yeah, and it's huge, especially within Corona time right now with gaining traction. Like if you're struggling, if you were struggling to gain traction across whatever platform you're on, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever you're on, now is your prime time. Like if you can't produce and create and gain traction now, then you really need to reevaluate how you're going about doing it. Because if you're taking a picture, you're putting it on Instagram, and then you're just instantly, upload it to Facebook without making some tweaks to the written word for Facebook specific.
I'm bad about that.
I do it too.
I go back and check, but I'm so bad about that.
And I do it too. And I've had to catch myself like, no, like you need to take this and tweak it a little bit. Like for example, yesterday I posted something about my dinner getting a burger from Fat Cow and having Grab It deliver it. And so I posted that on every platform, Twitter, and the written word on Twitter was different than the written word on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went on LinkedIn, and it was just straight up like, not even sure if LinkedIn's good for a food platform, but for you foodies out there, here it is. And then that was the written word, but I couldn't keep the same context that was there on Instagram because people on Instagram want that context, but people on LinkedIn don't. And LinkedIn is huge in as far as the growth potential that's there because of this. You have to look at it in a different lens, whereas the people on Instagram are like, I want to follow you, I want to find your content and like it and absorb it. Whereas LinkedIn, it's like, okay, I want to connect with you and potentially do something with you later on down the road.
Yeah. I always forget about LinkedIn because as a business owner, I never really had the opportunity to get on LinkedIn hardcore and like look for jobs on there. But I have a profile and it's been updated, and I post my blog links on there, and they do really well actually on LinkedIn because it's always like content creator tips, like, oh, how to do this or 10 ideas for this. And so those types of things I make just, one, to educate my audience, but two, to like have SEO for my website to get people to come through. And I put it on Pinterest and everywhere else. But on LinkedIn, they do really well because it's, people who are trying to connect with that kind of thing. But then, so to take that even further, all I'm doing on TikTok right now is going through my old blog posts, things I've already written, content I've already created, and just figuring out how to repurpose that in a TikTok form. So it's almost like each platform is a different country and each country is a different language. And so you're just doing the same thing. You're not doing like more work per se. You don't have to think that much harder. You're just trying to like pivot each thing that you've done to fit the language for that country.
Yeah, exactly. It's every country has a different language, and if you're not speaking the right language, they're not going to respond to it. But I think, your blog posts and repurposing that for LinkedIn, it's okay. So why do you get the notion that LinkedIn's for job searching? Like, because I talked with Brian Haldane and he had the same thing. He was like, dude, he's like, I've got a job. Why do I need to be on LinkedIn? And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. What do you think like LinkedIn is like a ZipRecruiter?
I never really knew what LinkedIn was for. Because I was an art major, so it wasn't hammered in us to have a profile. I just was always like ahead of the time with social media. I was always on whatever the next thing was. So I had heard about it and was like, oh, I should make a thing. I heard it was like Facebook, but for like business. That's essentially what I thought it was. So in college, I made one and I was like, oh, I'll just put like my sorority and like my community hours and like, oh, I worked at the rec in high school. Like I didn't know what to put on there. And then kind of like forgot about it. I got hired to do some portraits for a family from LinkedIn like 5 years ago. They were looking on there. They were from out of town. They were looking for Baton Rouge photographers, and they were searching, and they found me, and they hired me off of LinkedIn. And I just they have a baby now, and I just took their pictures again like 4 weeks ago. And they live out of state, and they found me on LinkedIn. And that always stuck with me after that happened, because I was like, that's like, they could have Googled, but they didn't. They got on LinkedIn and searched. And so LinkedIn is a search engine. It's not a social media platform almost. It's like, it's a search. And that's how I feel about Pinterest. And I always say photographers who aren't on Pinterest are like severely underutilizing the potential on there, because Pinterest goes to Google.
Yeah. And so, a photographer not on Pinterest is like an accountant that doesn't know how to work Excel.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not about, because you always think like Pinterest is social media, like, oh, I'm going to pin the hairstyles I like, and it's going to be my board. And this is like, it's not for you. It's for people to find you. So you need to like position your pins, same as LinkedIn, to answer someone's question that they might be searching. So it's not about like, oh, like Sarah posted a cute hairstyle, I'm going to pin it from her. Like, oh, we're friends. It's not a social media platform like that. It can be to an extent, but it needs to be like, what are people searching? Oh, how to senior picture pose ideas. Well, then I'm a photographer. I'm just going to take the photos I've done and just position it to answer that question and match the SEO. So that's the same thing with LinkedIn, I feel like. And so I've tried to keep up with LinkedIn over the years, but I always forget about it. It is like my redheaded stepchild. Like I truly forget about it. I update it like once every 5 months, and I'm like, oh yeah, forget this is here. But I mean, I know it's powerful. And if I position myself as an expert on there, I might get hired again from someone on there. So it's not necessarily just for corporate hiring. It's for just people who want to hire you for whatever it is that you offer.
And it's especially for creatives, because you've got professional people who may be in a position to hire you in something that you may not know you want to do at the time. You could have a corporate say, hey, we want to do headshots for the whole company. You need to come in and take 400 headshots of every employee, and we'll pay you for it. It's like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I was not positioning myself to be headshots, but they loved the write-up I did on how to edit and make somebody's face pop in a photo that you took in some other who knows what context.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I feel like that's all social media in a nutshell. But like we were talking about earlier, people on Instagram, they want to see your face. They want to see what you have. They want to see where you live. They want to see your dog. Like it's a little, and it can be a portfolio thing too. But that's something I always talk about with photographers is that like, show me what you look like. Because if all it is just your work and it's beautiful, that's like that's just your website. Like I want to see who you are. It's Instagram. And so like, if someone wants to hire me to come take pictures of their baby in their house, they probably want to know that I'm not like a serial killer. Like they probably want to see a picture of me and like get to know me, So I always think about it that way. It's personality marketing and just different platforms are for different things, but put yourself out there and brand yourself so that you're not just like a talking resume, because what's the point of that? It doesn't make you stick out at all.
I can send you my resume via Word doc. I don't need to put it out in pictures, but you said it perfectly. I always keep going back to what you said with the country, different language, and understanding what the language is for what country. And I think you nailed what Instagram is about, is people want to see you and your work. But if they really want to see just your work, then they'll go to your website, or they'll go to wherever you have your portfolio, and they'll find it from there to see your work. But now they want to learn more about you. Can they, especially for photographers, can they let you in their home and take pictures of your babies? I mean, that's talk about privacy. You're going into the belly of the beast, for the lack of a better term.
Yeah, I feel like it's the same way. Like I don't shoot weddings, but wedding photographers, like you might have all this beautiful work, but like I don't know what you look like. You're going to be with me on my biggest day. Like you have to talk to my mom. You're going to be my grandma. You're going to talk to me for a year. And I feel like photographers need to put themselves out there more. And people always ask me why I don't have separate Instagram accounts for my photography and my or for me and all that. And I've gone back and forth about it. And sometimes I feel like it would be easier to have things separated. But at the end of the day, like I am my business. So if you don't like me, then you probably don't want to hire me. So it's like, fine. Or you might like, or maybe you like me, but you don't like my work. But it's just it. And I think that's truly why it's been harder for me to grow. I'm waiting to get to 10,000 followers so I can have that little swipe up link. But like, it's hard to grow when you're putting a lot out there, because it makes it like, I always use the example of like, if you run an account that's about coffee and you post a picture of coffee only every day, it's easy to grow really fast because people know exactly what it is and they'll know whether to follow you right then or there. But if you're posting about you, and then for me, like a metal concert, and then it's a baby, and then it's a landscape, and then it's my podcast, and then it's my foot, and then it's this outfit, and then it's whatever, it's hard for people to decide if they really want to stick around. But that's how I know the people who have stuck around are like, they're like gung-ho audience, And so but it makes it slower to grow because it takes longer. It's like dating. It's like you have to like figure out if you like everything you see. It's easy when it's like, this is just dogs. So like, if you like dogs, follow. If you don't like dogs, don't follow. But if it's like me, they might, not like everything I'm about or that I do. And so it's harder to grow. But at the end of the day, I feel like it makes it more like authentic of organic following,
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. There's so many different, I guess, methods to make your social presence explode on different platforms, from following other people and in hope that they follow you back. And, then some people are like, well, I don't want that high of a following count. And I'm like, okay, well then your best way is to have content that you are creating for your purpose, engaging with your audience. And then whoever likes it is going to stick around, let them speak what they want. And then those who want will stay.
Yeah.
But have you tried to get verified yet?
I have a couple times. I don't remember what, there was like a reason they said no. It was like a certain line, like, I don't remember. And it might have been on Twitter. I've tried on both. I have heard the rumor that you have to have 10,000 followers on Instagram to get verified, like a minimum. Twitter, you don't have to, I don't think.
Yeah.
But there was like a reason. There was like a line that they said like, I don't think there was anything else to corroborate that I was like important. And so I think like I made a podcast. Maybe that's like the thing now. I think you have to have like written a book or like there's like something.
It's you have to be known in the public to an extent. So I think if I were you, because once you get verified, you don't have to have 10,000 followers to be verified. You just have to be
really. I don't know. I had heard that was, but I didn't know if it was a rumor.
I've seen people verify with less. You have to be known enough that they can search you with their bots and find you and then say, yes, you're legit, you're who you are, and then they'll verify you, and then you can use your links and you can use your swipe ups.
All I want is a swipe up. That's all I want. Like I tell everyone I want like 10,001 followers. That way if the one unfollows, like I still have my swipe up. You know, like it's just
right. Well, and that's the beauty of being verified. You don't have to have the certain number of followers. Once you're verified,
close though. I'm like 9,300 something. I'm getting close. I just want to be able to post the links because I create so much content that's not on Instagram, and I'm always trying to like direct people to things, either mine or other people. Like even like right now for like the coronavirus stuff, like Visit New Orleans sent me a message saying like, hey, can you share about these restaurants that are still open? And I just like, yeah, but I'm gonna have to like screenshot and be like, go to visit the link and then do all this stuff. And it's so much easier if I could just like swipe it up because I could help so many different aspects of my business and other people's if I could just like direct people directly to where it is. And I hate that you have to have a minimum of 10,000 followers for that.
Yeah, and there's other like, are you familiar with Linktree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had that for a while. I built a site or a page on my site called like jordanheffler.com/link in bio. And it's like a page where I put my links and that's what my bio is linked at. That way people are at least going to my website. And so they still get the pop-up to sign up for my email newsletter and whatever else. And I had Linktree for a while and there was one weekend where it had crashed, like the whole site. And I was so upset because nobody was like going to my, so I was kind of like, I want to have control over where my link in bio is going. And so I just built a page for it, and but I always forget to update the links on there too. Like I had like Black Friday promo codes in there up until like a month ago, and I was like, I need to take these out, but I just forget to go update that part of my website because it's like a hidden page that I have to like go find. But
and now you got Corona time, so you can figure out all those little nooks and crannies.
Yes, I've been writing a list of all the things. It's so stupid. I have a list of like TikTok ideas that I want to execute, but I can't freaking do anything because Christian is Zooming all day, conference calls all day. So I'm just like, I'm trying to TikTok here.
I'm like sit in the bathroom.
I'm at my like makeup table right now in my room because he's at my table where I normally do stuff, but he has more meetings than anyone I know. And since I already work from home, like this really isn't different for me. I'm just like, this is just my normal life. I just don't have any photos to edit or shoots to go to, but I'm used to working at home and finding things to keep myself busy. Like that's part of being an entrepreneur is like having to be a self-starter and find things to do. So I'm used to just like taking a shower at 2 p.m. and like doing my laundry, but then like editing this or doing that. And he is on like 9,000 conference calls. And I'm just like, all I want to do is TikTok, and you are in my way. I can't do it. So anyways, I have a list of things I want to do. And so like this, and this, and I want to create a Lightroom workshop, and I want to edit the stuff on my website. And then I also want to like refigure out why my tap the product thing stopped working, all these different things. And it's hard because it's not like he does not do well working from home. Like he needs to go back to work.
Oh, I don't blame you. Okay, so I guess we should probably wrap up for the 3 people listening who are probably trying to get on with their day.
Are the 3 people listening? I didn't even know. I haven't looked.
There's 4. I'm sorry, 4.
Yes.
Go 4
I just screamed really loud. Oops.
Okay, so to wrap up, kind of, what is 2 lessons that you've learned along the way of being a creative?
Put yourself out there because no one will know who you are or what you do or what you can do if you don't tell them. No, there's no PR department. There is no one will know that you exist unless you tell them. So as obnoxious as it feels and as weird as it is, you got to put yourself out there, and it never gets less weird. You just kind of get better at it, but you are the only person that's going to pimp yourself out for you. So that is a big thing. And like what I was talking about earlier, just like launch fast. Like just if you have an idea, just do it, like Nike style, like do it. Mm-hmm. And because you're gonna sit and think of all the things that could go wrong and probably overhype it in your head than whatever it is that you want to do. So just do it. And if it flops, just like do something else. Like if you're making enough stuff all the time, like people don't really, it's not a big deal. And I guess like this is the third one, I guess, but don't say things that are going to happen until you know it's going to happen. Like, you know, that meme of like the guy at the podium, like the PSA meme, where he's like ready to give a press conference about everything. that's kind of me. I'm always so excited to say like what the next thing is, but like I've gotten burned before. Almost like with my podcast, like getting excited, like I have a sponsor, and I'm like, wait, but now it's gonna be pushed back a couple months because I don't have the stuff. Like, don't say things that are gonna happen until you know it's gonna happen, because it's just awkward. So I feel like just put yourself out there, get your stuff out there, and don't tell anybody it's going to be out there until like you're for sure it's gonna happen.
I love
Otherwise,
that.
you sound like the boy that cried wolf. If you're like, I'm gonna launch a podcast, I'm gonna do my work, I'm gonna do it, and then you never do it. So
been there, done that. That's why I don't say I'm going live with anybody until they're like, hey, I'm pulling up in your driveway. I'm like, all right, now I'll publish about it. Okay, so final question.
Weirder things have happened.
Yeah, and stuff happens, and I get it, and I never hold anything against anybody for canceling or pushing back. I'm like, look, I'm the first to tell you stuff happens. So take care of what you got to take care of. I'll still be here. So what do you love most about Baton Rouge?
The Garden District. That's where I live. I don't know. I have a salty history with Baton Rouge because like when I graduated from LSU, as many of us do, it's hard to find your spot in the city because when you live in that college bubble and then you're put out in the real world, it's kind of hard to find your footing to be like where, because I'm not a college student, but I'm not like married with kids yet, so I don't know like where I live in this. And I feel like Baton Rouge has kind of been slower on the front of like the young professional scene. It's happening. It's just it's slower than other cities, I feel like. And so a lot of my friends from college moved, and I lived around too much of the college scene for too long after I graduated, and it made me really hate the city because I was just like resentful for like, and like, oh, I should move because like I'm not in college anymore, but I live around all of it. Whatever. Moving to the Garden District about 3 years ago just completely changed my whole perspective on the city. I found like my niche of like people my age and places to go and things to do, and it really made me like the city more. And so it's something small like that, and that doesn't have to be the same neighborhood for everybody. But my opinion is the Garden District is great, and I just like walking the neighborhood, and it makes me really appreciate where I live for sure. Okay,
so if you could change one thing about Baton Rouge, what would it be?
I don't know how this would change without the participation of everyone, including me. And I'm like the one saying it, but like it's definitely a college town, and anyone who tries to fight me on that, like I will stand my ground. Like it's a college town, and it's hard. I think it's just slower getting its footing to be a place where people want to move that aren't just moving here for college. It's happening. It's just slower. And so something that I would change about that is just like having a bigger young professional scene, which is like, obviously we're all part of that in our age group. So like we are part of changing that. It's just, it's slow, man. I don't know. I go to other cities like Atlanta or New Orleans or literally anywhere. And I'm just like, man, this is so cool. You go to the bar and and I feel like Baton Rouge is getting there. It's just, it's taking a long time. And I've only been here 10 years, but it's been a lot in the 10 years I've been here. So
yeah, we get to the scene. It's just, we get to the scene a little bit later than everybody else.
Exactly. But... And that's what I would change about it. But I also like, I guess we are part of that change, so I guess we are changing it. I don't know.
We got to change from within and make one step at a time.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
That's kind of the wrap there on ending on what we can do to make the change in Baton Rouge, and one step at a time, we'll get there slowly but surely.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jordan, for coming on the show. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for all the. I feel like you think I'm a psychopath because of my email communication with you has been tragic. I'm normally not this crazy, but weird times. But thank you for being patient and letting me on your show.
You are more than welcome. So for everybody listening, however many you are, whether you're 3, 4, or 5, thank you all for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to the show. Go out and give Jordan Heffler a follow on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, especially TikTok.
After this, I'm going to get some more my dances going.
Yes.
I'm working on it.
We should do a TikTok whenever I come on your show.
Yes. Okay. Because that'll be in person eventually.
Exactly. Yes. Eventually.
Yeah. And you're going to teach me how to use QuickBooks.
Eventually. Yeah. I got that. All right. So we'll go ahead and end before we just keep blabbering on. But thank you everybody for watching. I'm Patty G. You're listening to the Patty G Show with Jordan Heffler. get out there and do what you want, and
Yeah.
let's change the world for the better.
Yeah, and wash your hands.
That's-
Yay!
Wash your hands.
All right.